we call upon this press conference because we believe that as a country, everyone has got to take responsibility in various ways. As a political party, we have a responsibility on 3 pillars that we have promised our members and therefore the nation at large. The first one on effective and ethical leadership. The second pillar, working on matters of sustainable wealth creation, which is about green profits. And the third one is the sustainable households, or the dignity of the household. And with the current situation and with the upcoming budget, and arising from the situation that we are coming from as a country, having come out of COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly on matters of high cost of living, we believe that we want to share suggestions just like every other Kenyan, because we are not talking from just any point. We are talking as responsible Kenyans, and we believe that this is not a responsibility just for the President of the Republic of Kenya, but everyone's responsibility to add value, because we are stakeholders in this country, and therefore we cannot leave it. Neither can we blame other people for what we have not done or said, because a budget preparing process is a very important thing for the nation. We are going through very difficult questions that we need to ask ourselves as a nation. With the high cost of living, what are we planning to do? What are we working on? There are questions that we have a very high rising debt with a repayment of 1.1 trillion Kenya shillings, which is going directly into matters of debt. That means for every 100 shillings we are using or paying out 60 shillings, and therefore we are remaining with about 40 shillings per 100 shillings. And we need to start thinking, what can we do that will help us? There are, of course, investments that have been done that will eventually bring our Kenya and our country to better position in future. But at the moment, what can we be able to do? And therefore, we have some suggestions that we look forward to bringing forth. And the first one is on matters of addressing high cost of living. The rapid increase of cost of living really goes beyond what Kenyans can be able to manage, and households are suffering. And even going with the recent report by KIPRA, which talks about 2/3 of households in this country going through very extraordinary times where they cannot be able to place food on their table. This is extraordinary, and therefore we need to think about it. The consumer price index has increased from 2016, where it used to be at about 108 in I think 2016 to 108, and getting to 108 in 2020, and currently we are at about 120 in March. That means there is a rise of up to 39.5% of the increase of consumer price. This is something that really every Kenyan must be feeling. The inflation cost is getting higher. The imported materials are becoming more expensive than what we ever exported, what we ever expected. And therefore we call upon the government, and we suggest the following. One, to address the issue of exchange rates through promotion, deliberate promotion of our exports. You realize that even with the war in Ukraine and Russia, and with the sanctions that are already there, it's starting to bite in Europe and North America. And the resultant effect is that there may be rise of interest, and therefore that will again bring our exchange rate to go higher. And therefore we need to start targeting deliberately on issues of exports. We need to address logistical issues and changes in our ports, and so that we can make the raw materials better, and also allow competition between road transport and SGR, so that things can start moving on their own. And we propose various items and activities, which include bringing down the cost of animal feed. And because currently the situation is that we are fighting for the same food that we are eating with the animals, and therefore we are looking forward to a situation where we are going to have the government considering, the Treasury considering allowing importation of yellow maize, so that we can be able to bring down the cost of feeds, and therefore that will result to more jobs expected out of the same. Allow also other items. We can make Kenya a very special country in terms of CKD production, and we could be able to work on production on TVs, and these are suggestions that have been done by Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and therefore we stand with them because these are very valid issues. Allow the importation of sackcloth craft paper. This is the material that is used to package cement. We, as a country, I think we are importing over 326 million bags for the region, and this is a consumption that we'll need to be able to deal with. On matters of industry, the build industry, we need to be able to allow, as suggested, and we hereby reiterate, the importation of white cement, because it is not being produced currently locally, and there is nobody who is doing this. This will bring down the cost of pavement blocks and items that could be also used. We have also worked on plastics, and therefore materials for producing plastics locally needs to be considered and imported in a cheaper way. We need to be able also to think about building the automotive sector and local production of CKDs, and also establishing institutions that are going to allow the complete knockdown kits to be brought into this country in the best way possible. Addressing the issue of job creation, we need to be able to understand that industrialization, for every one job in manufacturing, we definitely get at least 5 direct jobs. So unemployment is a leading challenge in this area, and we have solutions that we are suggesting as a party. One, we need employment tax to that does not burden the employer and make it easy to create employment, and we also need to create practical plan for expansion of jobs that are sustainable, and also recovery that will be green, in a process that is going to see the government initiating a program to green manufacturing sector in the country. The third issue that we want to suggest is on promotion of local content. We need to be able to look at this as a possibility that will balance the import vis-a-vis the exports that we have. Kenya currently imports 560.1 million worth of goods, and exports only a paltry 706.2 million goods worth. So the solution is very clear. One, to finalize and operationalize the local content policy. This needs to be done as a matter of urgency, we suggest. We also seek to create a practical framework for monitoring the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya, so that it's not just a word of talking out there. We need to practically run it, and therefore also finalize and implement the national automotive policy. This needs to be done as a matter of urgency. The next item, the fourth one, is the issues that we are facing on SMEs. We are an SME country with 80% of our businesses anchored in this space, and therefore solutions to bring this out is to create incentives to build production cooperatives. This removes people from the abject poverty and makes them fundable. You realize that most of the institutions at each level, and especially those coming from very poor regions, they cannot get funding. But the moment we create cooperatives that are working in this space, we are going to get a lot of support for this institution that is long-lasting. Implementation of a credit guarantee. The credit guarantee is of utmost urgency at the moment. Clearly, studies have already consistently shown that SMEs identify lack of access to credit in this as an impediment. Reduction of the regulatory burden is something else that we are looking forward to, and the solutions is various levies that are charged by county and national governments. Sometimes they overlap. We need to get this sorted out, and also levies charges are tied to any specific service in return. So the solution is one, we suggest that all levies and charges by national government and government agencies and other charges to be made under Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act of 2016 to support predictable regulatory environment in Kenya, and also establish an objective monitor on regulatory burden to the industries, and also carry out regulatory reforms to address and streamline the overlaps. Also are looking to have the involvement of counties in driving the Big Four agenda. I think this is something that is long overdue, and the solutions are very clear that we are suggesting: to develop a model county industrial policy anchored on the industrial policy, national industrial policy, develop a county industrial competitiveness within the framework, and also inclusion of manufacturing-centric agenda, and also implementing a national policy on county governments on resources, and also finally on that, to formulate the tariff and pricing policy on county services. Market diversification is a space, as I almost finalize, that we need to deal with a review on ESC Common External Review. This is something that is urgent, and we believe that it can work on dealing with the current issues that we are having and facing as a nation, and also push for finalization of Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. I think this is something that needs to be done. Finally, we need to address the health infrastructure issues. And since this is an issue that is of a devolved function at the county level, we need to collaborate between the two levels of government to create a situation that is going to support every Kenyan in one space, so that we can be able to get a solution on health matters for the good of our people. It is shaking, it is scaring that 2/3 of our community, of our household, are suffering in a manner that they have not suffered before. But again, there is hope in this country, and hope comes by us not trying to run away from the actual situation, but facing and placing ideas on the table like we are, so that it can be considered by those in power and those who are making decisions that would affect the Kenyan people. Thank you very much. I think the best thing that we must deal with as a country right now, first of all, is to face the truth and speak the truth as leadership. Because the moment we keep telling the common person about very complicated issues, I think it is not going to help anyone. We need to face the reality. People cannot afford food. Prices of oil are going high. This is a situation that is not a quick fix situation. With the war that is in Ukraine and Russia and the sanctions that are out there, we need to be able to understand, even as we deal with our own oil, which will eventually be a subject to the international oil prices and regulation. We need to be able to deal with issues that will place food on the table. How are these issues going to be done and faced within the budget? Is to deal with the urgent ones like When you deal about cost of production, we have to bring it down. Talking about cost of milk, cost of issues that also are surrounded or surround the climate change matters. We need to be able to affect them. Bring down the cost of production of milk, and that is through the feed. Create opportunities for employment. Activate most of the issues that are pending. And we cannot be a country that we can see governors crying out there that they have not received funds that were supposed to be out there. If there is indeed money in, and clearly we may be struggling, we need to deal with these issues as soon as possible so that our people can be able to benefit out of.